How's everybody doing today?
What's going on?
Good. How are y'all?
Good.
Hey, Briana.
Try not to be too excited. I've had 3 cups of coffee.
There we go. You're just gonna tweak out a little bit.
I couldn't handle that. My brain would explode, literally.
Yeah. If Natalie has more than 3 sips of coffee without food pairing with it, then
not okay.
Yeah, we start tweaking out real quick. I worry about her. Anyway, what's up, Adam? How are you, man?
Hey guys, good. Glad to be here.
Hey, thanks for joining us from vacation.
Yeah, glorious hotel room here.
Yeah, I love the scenery. It's great. Well, cool. So we've started a little bit early today. That would give us just a little bit more time to just kind of talk about stuff and go through our answers. I think we've probably got about 30 minutes where we'll just be having a conversation about, what it's really like to start a business, what the real nitty gritty is. I think when people start thinking about starting their own business, they have two ends of the spectrum. They're really excited and all the things that they want to do, and then they're totally terrified over here. And the reality of it is kind of in between. So just want to talk a little bit about y'all's experiences, and then hopefully we can have some good Q&A towards the end. But for people who are joining in right now as attendees to the YP Summit, first of all, thank you so much for joining today. Obviously, it would probably be preferable for us to be in person somewhere so we could see each other's smiling faces in person and have some great one-off conversations and stuff like that. But I think this is a great way to do this virtually, so more people can still be involved. And then hopefully for the second annual YP Summit, we'll all be able to high five in person and all that fun stuff. But anyway, so the topic that we are going to address here today on this panel discussion is how to know you're ready to start your own business. This is, we at Heed PR, we launched our business about 2 years ago. And it was one of those things, we talked about it for a very long time, having our own business. One day, it was always a one day. And then one day happened when we had a great opportunity to start our business. And it has been probably it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Thankfully, there's been more highs than lows along the way. But we get asked a lot about what it's like to run your own business and how did we know it was the right time to do it. So instead of having a YP Summit talk about public relations, we thought we'd bring in 3 area entrepreneurs that we have a lot of respect for, who are doing a lot of really good things. And, from various parts of the economy, from various industries, to talk about what their unique circumstances have been like, and hopefully the people who are watching this now or who will watch it later, through these various experiences, they can identify themselves with these experiences. So I guess we can start by everybody introducing themselves. It doesn't matter who starts first. But if somebody wants to kind of grab the bull by the horns to start with, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your business and how long you've been in operation.
Okay. Gabby, you want to take it?
About virtual, never knowing when you should go. Hi, I'm Gabrielle Blades. I also go by Gabby. Hey guys. I own Blades Creative, which is a branding and print design company here in town. I have been in business for 5 years now in July, which is very exciting. My cat is gonna meow in the background right now. I specialize in working with small businesses, nonprofits, and larger companies. And I also dabble in Squarespace design, but it's not something. So sorry, he is very angry with me right now.
Our neighbor was hammering on something at the very beginning.
Yeah, our neighbor started hammering on his AC unit, and our dog started barking like right before we.
So fortunately, that stopped. If it starts again, you'll know.
Good stuff. This is real life.
Yep.
But anyway, like I said earlier, branding and print design, and I dabble a little bit in the digital design realm as well. So that's it.
And I guess I'll go next. Yeah. Me and my caffeine are going next. I'm Briana Garza. I am the owner and co-founder of Chatt Taste Food Tours. Chatt Taste Food Tours, we curate dining experiences in downtown Chattanooga, specifically locally owned and restaurants that truly do farm to table and support local farms in the community. And so essentially what our company does is an exchange. You know, instead of going to one restaurant, the same amount of money, the same amount of time, visit 3 to 4 in a single evening.
Nice.
So I speak to the foodie population of the world.
Yeah. And Briana, I don't know if you remember the first time that we met.
Don't put me on the spot here.
No, it was at Mad Priest, and you were there. Is you and Genesis, y'all were there, and you guys were working, and you know how they've got like the pews set up, you know, facing each other. Like you guys were at one, and I was at the other, all by myself. I had like room for 20 people, but I had it by myself, all to myself, and a lady came in, and she had 2 young children. Like one was like strapped to her. And there was no other place to sit in the whole place. And obviously I look around, I'm like, okay, I should give up my seat. So I told her.
You were that guy.
And then you guys were nice enough to let me come hang out with you guys since I was without a seat at that moment. So
and we played with that woman's children the entire time.
Yeah.
Like I do remember that.
Yeah, our first experience was like working in our small businesses together in a very small, you know, incubator at Mad Priest Coffee. So.
And I'll tell you, those chance meetings like generates this, you know, David, when you reached out and said, hey, will you do this? I said, absolutely. So I really hope there's time to talk about like how organically people meet. I have a similar story with Gabby, you know, just seeing her working probably the same pew at Mad Priest. Speaking of, they do have coffee for sale right now. I have an entire bag next to me in the office for some reason. Shout out to Mad Priest. But I really hope there's time to talk about those chance meetings and how this organic relationships form, like for entrepreneurs in Chattanooga.
Yeah, for sure. We'll
Thanks for saying that. I forgot about that, David.
Yeah. What's up, Adam? How about you, man?
Man, I wish I had a cool story with you, David. I think we met playing sweaty, like old man basketball at the sports barn, which is not, so not nearly as cool. But yeah, we started Strafire Media, which was our core business 3 years ago last month. So that was a big, you know, point for us. And then since then, we've also added a second business that is kind of our focus more nowadays, which is Herd Podcasts, and it's a podcast production company. So I've been doing that for about maybe 2 of those 3 years. We've been doing the podcast alongside of it. Gotcha.
Well, maybe I'll start with you on this next question, Adam. So most everybody that I know that has started their own business or co-founded a business with somebody else, a lot of times they've always wanted to do their own thing, to go out on their own. That's a very commonality that you see out there. Can you talk to us a little bit about, did you always have the entrepreneurial bug, or did that develop lately? How did that play out for you in the launch of your own business?
Yeah, I definitely, I don't know if, you know, the entrepreneurial bug, but I always wanted to have my own business, or to be able to point to something that like I had a hand in building. And a lot of that was from growing up. All my grandparents came from Puerto Rico, moved to Philadelphia. Go Phils.
There you go.
And one of my grandparents in particular, my grandfather, started a couple cheesesteak shops and like tried to get things going. And it was always just a struggle. I mean, he worked really hard, but he also had another job. He worked for a bunch of different mayors in Philadelphia. And so I had grown up hearing all these stories about, you know, just what goes on having that type of company in a city like Philly at that time and all these sorts of things. And just knew that I wanted to be able to take what he had started and my parents had built on, and they had always talked about wanting to build their own businesses, but never had done so. And so they had put 2 generations of work in, and I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to pay that off,
Sure.
if that makes sense. So I didn't know what that would look like or how I'd be able to have my own business, but I definitely always just wanted it in an ambiguous way.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Briana? Because you Chat Taste kind of started as a side hustle, right?
One of many. I do all the things. But you know, speaking to the question, I don't know that I was born an entrepreneur. I think it developed. If you give me something to do, I'm going to do my best. I mean, you can have me test the air quality outside and I'll find a way to measure air quality and make improvements. So Chat Taste really came about just by conversations with friends, you know, and being out and having a really bad spending budget and people saying, well, why don't you just do that? People asked you where to go, what to do anyway. But starting off 3 years ago, I never thought it would be a business, something I would be doing for a living, something that would be revenue producing. I thought it would be a hobby. And it really took, you know, the Davids and, you know, your coffee shop comrades to really push the idea of formalizing something you're passionate about. I mean, who doesn't like food? You know, that doesn't mean I'm the greatest foodie in the world. It doesn't mean that, you know, I am a professional in my craft, but I think I'm certainly one of the most passionate.
Yeah.
In terms of like being the first in my family, I've kind of been the first college graduate. I'm a first generation entrepreneur. I don't know if that's a thing, but I do feel as though my parents would have been great entrepreneurs. Their work ethic, I mean, that grit, that what you need to have to keep going, because it's so easy to get out of the entrepreneurial, like the stressors of like starting up a business and maintaining it, the emotional like ebb and flow. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I think I became an entrepreneur because I wanted to take those core values of committing to something and seeing it through and apply it to something that I'm personally passionate about. And then I just arrived here.
Yeah. I think talking about passion, that's probably a good segue to rope Gabby into this particular question is like, obviously, like Gabby, you're not about just like whipping up a design and throwing it out there. It's a much deeper thing for you as a designer. So, you know, what were you doing before you started Blades Creative? Were you in-house somewhere? How did this all get off the ground?
I've actually never had a full-time job in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. So my journey is a mixture of things. So I was raised in a very entrepreneurial family, but it was never called entrepreneurship. It was just making things happen. So my mom owned a salon, and then my mom and dad together would build houses and sell them. And so I always saw them like doing things to like make more work happen. And so as a kid, I was the art kid. I always created things constantly. I loved making cards, and I thought I was going to work for Hallmark one day. And I had a little card store in one of our spare rooms. So like I was an entrepreneur from a very young age and had no idea what it was. I didn't know what entrepreneurship was up until I had one of my first clients launch Chattanooga. And so fast forward, I went to school for graphic design here at UTC. And I thought when I graduated, I would probably be working in-house somewhere full time. And instead I got a part-time job with the city. And I was doing a lot of research design for a transportation study. And it was also short term, so I knew it would come to an end at some point within a few years. And so at first I like took it easy because I was tired from school. And then I started picking up work because people recognized me as a graphic designer. And so that's when I picked up Launch, who was my second client, but I didn't really call people clients. I had no idea still. And it probably took me, I can't even tell you when I actually decided to say I was an entrepreneur. But I did get a business license before my other job ended, my city job, part-time position, whatever it was. And I was working with clients a lot. And it took me about 6 months to brand myself after getting a license. And I was still looking for jobs, didn't know if I would get a full-time job. And then probably like 6 months after I branded myself, I finally got an office because I like thought that would make me feel real. And that was actually probably the moment where I was like, I'm working for myself full time. I'm an entrepreneur. So my journey, it's been a lifetime.
Yeah. No, we never, I don't know. We talked about doing it ourselves a lot. My father was an attorney, and he was self-employed, but he would have never considered himself an entrepreneur. I always knew I wanted to work for myself. We'd talked about it a long time. But for me personally, the entrepreneurial bug didn't really bite until I was working in-house at Bellhops. And they had just gotten their Series A venture capital money, and obviously, that they were, a successful startup. And that's when I started thinking about it. It got real, and then we would always get asked to go to lunch with people. They wanted to pick our brains, and after about a year, I was like, man, if I turned half of these lunches into paying clients, like I could be an entrepreneur. I could have my own business. So that's kind of how we got to it. But we had to deal with the big thing that I think keeps a lot of people on the sidelines from starting their own business is the fear, the uncertainty that exists as an entrepreneur, as a self-employed person. So Adam, you've got an interesting story about like when you first came to Chattanooga. I know you were faced with adversity right off of the bat, but maybe can you talk to us a little bit about what some of your biggest fears have been when launching your own business, and how you've kind of mitigated those, how you've worked around those?
Yeah, so it's a good lead in. I didn't even think about that, but I think the biggest fear for me when I was starting the business was just financial. Like, how do you make, nobody teaches you, how do you make enough money with your clients? How much are you supposed to charge? With your costs, how much profit do you need? All these things that I didn't go to business school. So how do you learn all of that stuff? And so to mitigate against it on the front end, I had been working at a bunch of different agencies, most recently Vayner Media in Chattanooga, which is a great agency. And so I just saved as much money as I could. My wife and I both, she was a nurse at the time, and we saved up a year's worth of cost, which in hindsight was probably overkill, but that was my biggest fear, that we would run out of money. And I think a couple of things helped state or show that in reality, nobody is fully stabilized. Probably right now, a lot of people feel that, but I had that experience a little bit earlier to what you were referring to, David. When I first moved to Chattanooga, I got recruited there for an agency called Area 203. If you don't remember that or know about it, it's better for you. But was there for, I think 2 work weeks. And then there's this huge scandal. The owner of the company was indicted on these charges in the state of New York. And we came to work one day and we're just locked out of our computers and didn't have jobs anymore. And I was in Chattanooga already. And that was a good wake up call. It was still several years until I started the business, but nothing is safe, it's just the type of risk that you're willing to take on.
Yeah. Gabby, what are in your world, in your experience, how have you kind of combated what fears might look like that would otherwise be debilitating if you focus too much on them?
Well, I feel like every day is a risk when you're owning a business. So I always say I'm not much of a risk taker unless it's in business. Like literally, it's probably the only place in my life where I am risky. But like starting out with Blades Creative, I had no fear because I was so young. Like I had very little bills. I had nothing to lose. I couldn't find a job that I wanted that I would be happy with full time. So it, like for me, the risk came in and the fear came in later on, probably within the past 2 or 3 years, when my expenses started to get to be a point where it was more to handle, and I wanted to like grow in my own world. Like I wanted to get a better apartment, or like one day I want to buy a house. And so the fears really started when things got more expensive, so financial as well. But otherwise it's like super exciting. But how do I handle the fear of scarcity? I don't like, I feel like I have a lot of mental tools to help me like think in abundant ways and know that I'm always going to be okay, because literally I will never let things fall apart. And I know that about myself. So I will always be okay. I live a life of abundance. And even when things fall apart, like quote unquote fall apart, such as like maybe the coronavirus,
Sure, things
things will always be okay. And somehow the universe has my back, even when I don't think it's going to. So
yeah. How about you, Briana, in kind of like combating fear or negativity with, you've obviously got a very optimistic, positive being about you. How do you harness that to kind of manage through business?
It actually works to my benefit, because my biggest fear starting off was talking about my idea, like, hey, what is your business? I want to do lunch for a living. I want a lunch. I want it to be a verb. I want it to be what I do. And saying that out loud outside of, my office, that was really scary. And, I would go into these networking events and feel the least qualified to be there. Just putting on that hat of an entrepreneur. At what point are you an entrepreneur? Is it when you get the business license? Is it when you make your first dollar? Is it when you are, you're revenue producing and that's all you're doing? Like, I just had so many fears, but showing up as myself has helped me so much. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing, and being okay saying that and asking for help. And Gabby knows I will ask. And that personality of being okay, being living in a state of ambiguity. Like, I don't know everything. It's going to be 5 years from now, and I'm not going to know everything in my business. And I think that's going to be a huge takeaway for anyone listening. None of us know. We are all figuring it out, and being okay with that. Walk into that room with your personality, your quirks, show up as you 100% of the time. Allow people to get to know you, because what I found is that people will buy into you before they buy into your concept. There can be other food tours. Chattanooga certainly has enough eateries for there to be 3 or 4 food tours. But there's only one me, and I have confidence that, people understand my work ethic and the quality of an experience that they'll get with my company, and that I'm not going to sell you on anything. What I got is what I got. I won't exaggerate it. If you have some input to help me along the way, these ears are open all the time. But yeah, my biggest fear was feeling unprepared or unqualified, or being afraid to ask those questions. And I just said, this is who we are. Briana, we're getting in there. And I know I'm speaking to myself in third person, but we're going to do this. We're going to show up as ourselves, and we're going to present ourselves in a way that's genuine, and people are going to ride with it or not.
Yeah. There are a couple things you said in there that I am a big believer in. One is that we say it all the time, people do business with people. And a lot of times they're looking for a partner that doesn't have it all figured out, but they have a certain set of competencies that, and expertise and experience, they're important, but are they the person that they want to partner with, who they believe will get in their trenches with them, can understand what they're doing, and can be a true partner in those successes? You don't have to know everything. You just have to be that person that they trust to figure it out a lot of times for them. Okay, so we've talked about fear. Now let's talk about successes. I know each one of you have a lot of success stories, but if you could, maybe we'll start with you, Gabby, on talking about successes. Like if you could boil it down to one thing, what would your greatest success as an entrepreneur be? And maybe what would you attribute it to?
I actually have two answers for this. I thought about this one ahead of time. There's a tactile version of success, and then there's like the subjective version of success in my brain. I love being acknowledged for the work that I'm doing. So the tactile version of success to me is being Young Entrepreneur of the Year in Tennessee of 2019. So that helped me see that like the work that I had been doing for 4 years was being seen on a statewide level. And that was huge for me. So celebrating that win last year was amazing. Still trying to revel in it, but obviously we all have to move forward. But the other side is the subjective side. And my personal win subjectively is like growing. So like every single year I have grown, not business wise, but personally. And so I feel like every year as a business owner, and maybe it's just like the age that I am in right now, every year feels like 5 years. And so the personal growth that I have received from owning a business has been exponential. And I'm just like really grateful for all of the experiences that I've had, good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Briana? You have a big concept to sell. So what does success look like in that regard?
So success, and we've had a few milestones. I mean, we pilot, because Chat Taste is a food logistics company. You have to have the timing, the portion, the rates, and people don't realize, the food needs no help in Chattanooga. The experience is what you get from Chat Taste. So we've had our ribbon cutting, which was amazing. We've had successful tours. I remember reading my first Google review. I was like, oh my God, like they like this. This is happening. This is a thing. But I would have to attribute like my moment where I was like, okay, we got this, is when my mentor told me like, you are really doing a great job. And this mentor of mine, he was a restaurant owner. So he was a restaurateur, and asked some hard questions. People get excited about a concept like food tours and anything culinary based, but you need people that are going to cheer you on. And you also need people that are going to ask very tough questions and challenge you. And when that person, who's Javier Ramos, I mean, I don't know if he's listening, but thank you. He said, this is not going to work. And this is early on. We're talking 2017. He said, this won't work. The way you have it structured will not work. And I had the passion then, I had the drive then, but when he told me, you can do this, like this is profitable and people are going to buy into it. That to me was my biggest win.
Yeah, for sure. Adam, how about you? Adam, we have a lot of, we pay attention to each other on Twitter. And I always I love how invested you are in the successes and wins that your clients are getting. Like you seem to really like get a lot of good mojo yourself out of those. I don't want to answer the question for you, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think just to touch on something Briana said earlier, leaning into who you are, I think is something that I held at arm's length early on, especially coming out of the agency world where you pitch and you like present and you posture. And we kept losing, like when I was doing that. I was like making these huge decks. I look back at them now, I'm like, who was that? What were these? There's 3 of us. And over time kind of learned to just lean into, this is, you know, if you want to work with Adam, like, we should work together. And so to answer your question, like, one huge success for me, I'm a huge Phillies fan, I already mentioned that, but also like the Eagles are like, you know, big to me. And got to, for our podcast company, we signed a former Eagle, Torrey Smith, who won the Super Bowl with the Eagles, and have gotten to help him establish a platform for his brand. And especially like right now, he talks a lot about equality and racism and things like that. And like, so like, we've been able to be a part of that, which is crazy, because I'm just like this wild fan, and now I'm helping somebody that I respect so much, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely is a huge, just personal win, and kind of leads to what you were talking about being able to enjoy other successes.
Yeah, I always, as somebody who, you know, we run our own business, I really appreciate the candor that you have, and just being very open and honest about wins, losses, things you could do better. I think that is something that is overlooked in kind of the hype world that we exist in, where everybody wants to only focus on what they're doing and then amplifying the fist pumping around it.
Yeah.
A bunch more. Hey, Natalie.
Yeah.
What is
I'm Natalie, by the way.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
think I
Natalie.
introduced myself.
Yeah,
I
but
work with this guy.
so originally this was supposed to be me like doing the panel in person, and then like, you know, we're doing it virtually, and so we share a house together, so
Figured I'd pop in.
she's hanging out today. Hey, Natalie.
Yes.
What is your biggest success
Oh my gosh.
so far?
He didn't tell me that he was going to ask me questions, guys. I would say overall, just figuring out that we can do this thing. Kind of like Adam, I worked in different agencies for my whole career. I did have one small stint as an in-house marketer. But all that time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I have ideas. You know, I know how I could do this better. And you don't know until you try, right? Because there isn't a playbook. There's not, or I didn't take classes on entrepreneurship. You just have to jump in. And I'm the risk averse one of the two of us. I would have never done this if not for him. Knowing in the back of my mind, I can, because like Briana, I'm like, I will not let anything fail. If I'm going to jump into something, it is going to work. And just seeing for 2 years this thing work the way that I thought that it always could, that was big. And then writing my first check to a contractor, that was really cool. And it's people that we know and love from previous jobs who do the majority of our contract work. And so knowing that I was helping them kind of support a lifestyle that they wanted was really exciting for me.
Yeah, that was a good, off the cuff. That was a good answer. I liked it. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock. We've probably got time for 2 more questions, abbreviated answers, I guess, before we're supposed to open it up for Q&A for anybody out there watching. Okay, so reality sets in at some point when you're a small business owner / entrepreneur. When people are out there thinking, okay, what is it like if I'm to take the plunge? What's it really going to be like? What are some of those landmines that might be out there waiting on me? What are some of these reality checks that we will run into? For me, it's been, golly, there's a lot of taxes out there. Like a lot. Briana, what's maybe one of the biggest kind of like things that has kind of hit you since you launched your own business as a co-founder that maybe you weren't aware of?
I would say, marketing. You know, I thought going to all of the events and, you know, I thought branding myself would be like just telling people what I do, and you know, they buy the tickets and boom, success. But I guess can I make this like a word of advice of what I wish I would have done?
Yeah.
Is I wish I would have done earlier on than I did is find 3 like business owners, small business owners that do something you don't know how to do, or reach out to them. Like, buy the consultation, like purchase the consultation. You're helping other local businesses. You're being transparent on things you don't know how to do, and you're going to grow from that. And I wish I would have done that earlier. But yeah, like the work that goes into the launch of a single tour, I had no idea. You know, every time we launch a tour, we're talking 30 days of promotion. I mean, and it's not cheap. You know, you have to have like these quality imageries, these images. After this, I'm going to meet the videographer, you know, to promote a new video for Chat Taste, and the expenses add up. But there's value in having quality products and reaching out to people that know how to do things you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a commonality in organizations and entrepreneurs that succeed, is that they actually will invest in those very valuable things, as opposed to trying to figure out a way to skimp on them. Yeah. How about you, Gabby?
First off, Briana, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Snaps for like cheering on the marketing team for like photography, video, branding, all of that. Like, it's so multifaceted. So for me, the most challenging part has been knowing that figuring out that I'm not going to get along with everybody. Not everybody is my client, and not everybody is nice. Not everybody is trustworthy. So like, that's the scary part of things. So it's like going into this business so naive and so excited, and like wanting to work with the big groups in town or whatever it may be. Like, I've been burned a few times, and after you get burned, you just learn to stay away from the fire. Like, you just learn who is your client and who is not your client. And sometimes you get it wrong, and that's okay. And you just know how to handle it next time.
Yeah. Very important consideration there. Do you have anything to add on that front, Adam?
Yeah, just both of those have been true for me. And then I would say just looking at it as a marathon is something that has just adjusted in my thinking. Originally, I was like, I'm going to give myself 3 years, and in 3 years' time, I'll be able to see if I'm a millionaire or if I need to go get a job. And it's like, I mean, neither of those things have happened, unfortunately. But like, it's not, you know, it's a lifelong thing. It's not probably going to ever be a pop. It's going to be incremental steps, and that's just I've had to learn that over time.
Yeah. Okay, so last one here. Briana, you gave a great piece of advice here. So if you spin all your bullets here, that's cool. But for people out there who are either watching this now or they will be tuning in later, streaming it, maybe, I don't know, whoever wants to grab this one can go with it first. But if you had one piece of advice, actually the big question here is, how do people know when they are ready to do this thing? Like, tell us about somebody jump on that one. How does somebody know that they are ready to start their own business?
I'll go. I think you're ready to start your own business when it keeps you up at night. When you resist it so much and it troubles you where you can't sleep, you're constantly thinking about it. You're concerned that if someone else does this with less passion and it won't be a similar product than what you can produce. I mean, for me, you're ready to start your own business when it plagues you. When you know you can do it, or you're afraid that you can't do it. The fear is when you're ready. And I know that's going to be, people are like, what is she talking about? I can't tell you how satisfying it was to just start. Give yourself the title. You are an entrepreneur if you have an idea that you've put on paper. Give yourself credit. Be kind to yourself. You know, stop doing to-do lists. I started productivity ledgers. If I was doing anything towards starting the business, I gave myself credit for it, and I was kind to myself, and I nurtured the idea. you're ready when it scares the crap out of you. And can I say that? I don't know. That's when you're ready. If you're not afraid of it, give yourself a little bit more time.
Yeah. What about you, Adam?
Briana went sweet, so I'll go a little more salty. Like you can give yourself time, but like also you just need to start. And I wish I would have started 2 years before I did, because like I said, it's a marathon. There's distance that you have to cover, and there's work to be done. And so like it's never going to get easier, I guess. You just, even if you have a full-time job or whatever, do whatever little step you can now, which I think was at the heart of what you were saying, Briana, but to make progress and to start.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that one, Gabby?
I really just don't think there's a right answer. Like, I don't think there's ever a right time to start. I agree with both of you all. Like, there is going to be the fear, but you also just have to do it. Like Briana said earlier about the grit, like being an entrepreneur and owning a business takes grit. It doesn't matter if you're one person. It doesn't matter if you're hiring contractors. You are doing real life SHIT. I don't know if I can curse here either, but you're doing real life stuff, and like you're paying bills and you're paying people and you're creating work for people who care about their businesses, or you're being paid to work for somebody who wants a great experience. Like, it's not a game. I'm like so intense right now, but this is like, I feel like people approach me often and they're like, oh man, it must be so much fun to be a business owner. And I'm like, actually, it's really hard. It's way harder than you think it is. I just like maintain my mental health really, really well. Like, I think, so like what I thought about this morning was like, be mentally prepared for it to take over your life. It is your life now. You can set boundaries, but you're still going to think about it. And in order to like enjoy it, you have to truly love what you do. And you have to truly love the ups and downs. And you have to be able to see those challenges as wins. So it's an emotional experience, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I would say if it's something that you keep thinking about, if it's plaguing you, right? Like, you should just go ahead and do it. You can start incrementally and see what that work might, like, we started Heed kind of as a side hustle for me. I finally just decided to take on a client on the weekends. And I learned really quick that I loved doing it. And so it made it a lot easier for us to turn it into an actual full-time thing. Of course, we had to build up the client base a little bit first.
And speaking about fear and being the risk-averse one, at some point I just had to jump in. Because I was doing things on nights and weekends. And I was actually just talking with Gabby about this recently. But David was looking at me with crazy eyes, like, you got to quit your job. You have to quit. And honestly, we were so busy doing our business. Once I finally just said, okay, put in my notice and quit my job, I didn't have time to be that worried about it. I was just busy doing the things that needed to get done. So that was a very quick way to kind of handle the fears associated, because I am the one that I was getting insurance for my company. I would, all these things that was kind of our lifeline, that got cut, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Turned out okay.
Yeah. When I jumped in full-time first, and then when she jumped in, that was kind of like the parachute cord was cut, and we just had to do it. And, fortunately, we were busy enough that we didn't have too much time to worry about all the scary stuff.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Okay, so I don't know what this is going to look like when we open it up for Q&A, but if this is the last chance that I have to say to you all, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your insights. You are incredible folks. You are respected and admired from the Heed crew. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us today. Okay, so I see we don't have any Q&A. So I guess everybody can go to lunch now. So thanks again. Hey.
Oh, wait, she said no.
No. Hold on.
No.
Hang on.
So if anybody does have any questions, Well, it looks like we actually have one, but it may have been touched a little bit. But since you work for yourself and opening a business is an all hands on deck situation, how do you set a work-life balance so you don't lose your SHIT or mind before you get your business fully off the ground?
Gabby raised her hand.
I'll go because I saw this question and I was reading it so I could be prepared. So it's kind of like I was saying earlier, like, yes, it's going to take over your life and you might lose your mind. For the first 2 years of my business, I didn't have hobbies. I was all Blades creative all the time. And that's what I was excited about. But then I started to be very drained. And so I found some hobbies. I learned what boundaries were. And I started taking at least one day off a week. And so it's really creating a life outside of your business that will really help you stay sane. You have to have friends, and those friends might be business owners at some point. That might just be your life. But I just recommend creating a life completely outside of your business so you can escape from it and still enjoy it.
There's another question that just popped up from one of the attendees. She says, what advice can you give on marketing? So marketing, that can mean many different things, like marketing your business, marketing your products.
I think with marketing, it's like I was saying earlier, it's super multifaceted. So you have to be yourself, like Briana was saying. Just be honest to who you are, because that's going to get you the clients that you actually want to work with. Make sure to have the basics. So business cards are a thing for some people. I always recommend them just in case. But always have a website. Make sure that your SEO is working. I learned that that's actually a thing. Always have a brand. But I will say for marketing, if you're within the first year to 2 years of your business, you might want to wait until that second year to get a really well-made brand, because things might change. And then also just don't make more work for yourself than you have to. If you're creating content, make sure that you're refiltering it through different platforms, such as your website or your Instagram or your newsletter. Just use similar content in different places and it will hit different audiences.
Yeah, just to add to that. Oh, go ahead, David.
No, you.
I was just going to say, to what Gabby was saying, a simple way to do that is as you're going about just the work of your day and you realize little things that you're having to do or that you're thinking about, writing them down in your notes app on your iPhone and publishing them in some format, whether that's Twitter or whatever. To you, it's probably not interesting because it's just your brain, but that actually ends up giving that insight out, ends up serving as some free marketing for yourself as well.
Yeah, all I was going to add is that when you launch a business, a lot of people are going to be learning about you and your business for the first time. And a lot of the clients that we work with, we say that they operate what we call due diligence businesses, wherein before their partners partner with them, they scout them out. And obviously the media landscape, whether it's social media, earned media, website, SEO, all that stuff, we have a very dispersed world. There's a lot of places people can get information from you. And I always tell people, you need to make sure that be mindful of that people are searching you out, and wherever they are encountering you, they need to be encountering a consistent message. They need to understand who you are clearly and what you do and what your value proposition is. And you need to think about, okay, where are all these places where people can encounter me and my business? And I need to make sure that they are met there with good quality information.
And to answer the other question that Shawnee's kind of followed up with in the Q&A, did you hire anyone for marketing or did you learn as you go? I wanted to answer this from our perspective because marketing, PR kind of have some overlaps and we both have marketing experience. So we can do a lot of what we would need to do. When we started our business, I built our website. It was nothing I was ever amazingly proud of, but it served its purpose. And right now we're having someone else design it. We always talk about how the cobbler's children have no shoes. We're so busy promoting our own clients that sometimes the things that you need to do for your own business can get neglected. So to that, I would say, know your strengths. If marketing is your strength, and you feel like you can spend time on it, do it as long as it makes sense. You can save money that way. But like, for instance, we don't do our own taxes because we are not tax people. So we found a partner that we trust to do things like that. You have to find out what those things are that you need to lean on someone else for, because at the end of the day, it can be a real detriment if you're not hiring people who are the expert in that particular area.
David Martin does not need to be doing David Martin's taxes.
Nor does Natalie.
Can I add this from someone that's not good? Like, that is my Achilles heel, and I've gained so much traction acknowledging that. You can figure it out starting off. You're looking at your finances as a small business. You know, can I afford to hire someone to do my marketing? Okay, now you can spend, let's say, 8 hours a week trying to figure out how to do understand SEO and search engine optimization. I hate acronyms. But looking at that value exchange, now you can spend 8 hours a week, you know, and that adds up. Like, what is your value? What is your hourly rate? You know, to me, I'm worth $1 million an hour. That's a lot of money. Where if I were using that time, that 8 hours a week to do things that I'm really good at and paying someone, there is that value exchange there where it makes more sense to spend that money. And starting off, I was like clutching my purse, like, I need this money. I can't share it. I can't give it out, but you need to, you know, think about the value exchange and what that means for your business and that time. Associate a rate for yourself and determine, am I spending too much time on something that is not my forte? You know, source those things out, because you're going to get more value and more time and more equity focusing on things that you're good at.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We are right at the end of our time frame here. If you guys have any more questions for these awesome panelists, there'll be information shared after today, and hopefully you can connect with them. We're going to now take a 1 hour break and transition over, so everyone can take a lunch break, and we look forward to seeing you back here at 1 o'clock. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.